Welcome to First Class Life, Redefining Success. I'm your host, Kate Fessler, and today my guest is Bridget Brady. Bridget is an award-winning singer, songwriter, and actor. She is also an Amazon #1 international best-selling author. She spent 10 years doing theater in New York City before moving to Los Angeles to work in film and television. You've seen her in many feature films, including Dreamland, Dark Canvas, and Steam. You've also seen her on shows like Ally McBeal, Off Center, and Saturday Night Live. Most recently, Bridget has been focused on her music career, and she currently sings with two incredible groups, Make Mine Acoustic and the Wonderells, who both perform regularly in Los Angeles and all over the country. She most recently won the award for Best Original Song in a Short Film at the London International Film Festival. Her brand new single, Choose to Forgive, is available now through all major music outlets, and her EP will be released in November 2018. Welcome, Bridget.
Thanks, Kate. I'm super excited to be here.
Let's go back a ways. When you were a kid, what did you want to be when you grew up?
So that's easy and boring. I wanted to be a singer and an actor and a dancer for as long as I can remember. And as a matter of fact, my mother will tell you that I sang before I could speak. So yes. I apparently was singing, as of like 6 months old. And I didn't start talking till I was, 9 or 10 months old or whenever babies start talking. So, I have always wanted to be a singer and an actor and a dancer and different permutations of that.
So when did you know that you had the talent for that you could maybe turn that into career, that you had something special you could really grow and refine?
Probably, early. So I was a crazy overachiever child, kind of like I'm a crazy overachiever adult. So I went to Montessori school when I was 3. So I was reading and writing at the age of 3. And then I started kindergarten when I was 4. And, I feel like this sounds so, boastful or whatever, but it's not. Like, I just was it's kind of it's part of my dharma. I kind of was like born into this incarnation this way. Apparently I don't remember this, but apparently when I was 2 years old, anytime we'd go to a restaurant, which wasn't all that often, but anytime we'd go to a restaurant and, my parents let me do it. It'd be so annoying to me now. I would go table to table and ask every table if they wanted a song. And I would sing a song for them. So I kind of feel like it was something that I was born with. And then I don't know the answer to like when, just ever since I can remember, and we'll get way more into this as we go, like the sort of like behind the scenes reasons I felt this way so strongly. But ever since I can remember, I was like, someday I'm going to be a famous singer. So kind of ever since I can remember. And then I just never questioned it. I never questioned it from the time I was like 4 years old. I just said, this is what I'm going to do.
Wow. So it never even occurred to you like, wow, maybe this isn't going to work. Maybe I should, find a different way to make my way in the world.
That didn't occur to me until, which is a story we can tell or not tell. It's a pretty interesting story. That didn't occur to me until I was 19, out of college, living in West Harlem, not having enough money to eat every day in New York City, actually went on food stamps, went on welfare twice, ate out of a trash can. Then it occurred to me. That's when it occurred to me. I said, this career is harder to make money in than I thought it would be. Maybe I need to do something else. So the truth is, it didn't occur to me until I was 19.
So where did you grow up, first of all?
So I grew up all over the country. I was not a military brat. I was a DJ brat. My father was a disc jockey. And we moved The count is very close. I tried to count when I was like 25 years old. I'm like, I should count this. So by the time I graduated from college and moved around a lot, my count was that I had moved 53 times and I'd gone to 28 different schools.
Wow.
So yeah, so I didn't grow up anywhere. I lived all over the country, but then our family sort of settled in Colorado. So my family's still in Colorado. So I'm a Colorado girl. I went to high school there. So I feel a deep root and connection to Colorado. And then I moved to New York City when I was 17 to go to college. So, and I spent 10 years there from the age of 17 to 27. So there's also a part of me that feels like I'm from New York a little bit because I spent my developmental young adult years in New York City.
So you went to New York to go to college
Mm-hmm.
to study acting, presumably singing, all of
Musical
the stuff that
theater.
you wanted to do.
I was
Okay.
a musical theater major.
And so you graduate from college
Yeah.
and you're like, this should be easy, right? Now I've got a degree. I've been good at this my whole life. I'll just kind of waltz in and get a job. And it sounds like maybe it didn't work out that way.
It did not. And what's so funny is that I got the very first audition. I got the very first job that I ever professional. I mean, I worked like semi-professional, even as a kid. Like I did a few commercials. I did regional theater. Like I did a lot of stuff. I was in the Colorado Children's Chorale in Colorado. But then when I graduated school, the very first audition I ever went to was for the musical Annie at the Fireside Dinner Theater in Wisconsin. And I got it. So in a weird way, that didn't help me either. I'm like, oh, you just go to one audition and then you book the
And
job
you're in,
and
right?
then you go and do that. And so, so I went and did that. And what's funny is that it's not that I didn't work as an actor. I spent 2 years in New York City, mostly kind of trying to work as an actor. But what I didn't realize is that dinner theater, summer stock theater, black box theater, off Broadway, way the off Broadway, those kind of gigs, like they're real gigs that hundreds of people are competing for. And at the time, this is a long time ago, that paid like $200 a week.
Mm.
So I was making $800 a month living in New York City. So that was the problem. It wasn't so much that I wasn't booking jobs. I was booking jobs, but jobs that weren't nearly enough money to support oneself in New York City.
Yeah. So did you do like a lot of people do and sort of wait tables, or were you just sort of
I
like, I'm going to do this and I'm not going to let anything else distract me?
No. I did a million horrific jobs between the eight. Well, I worked even when I was in school. So from when I was 17 up until when I finally said, oh my gosh, I have to change something when I was on 21. I did a million horrific jobs. I did wait tables for about 6 months. It wasn't for me. Like I wasn't good at it. I mean, I was good at it, but I hated it. So I did a lot of jobs like spraying perfume on people in department stores,
Oh, yeah. I've
passing it.
had that happen to me.
Yes, I sprayed you with perfume.
It could have been you.
I passed out flyers on the street. Would stand at convention centers and model a thing. Oh, look at this thing. I was an in-store live mannequin for a while. I
Cool.
literally was paid to stand in clothing and be a mannequin. I was a model at art schools. I mean, I just did, you name it, I did it. I did a million and one weird jobs. And then the sort of end of this story, the moral of this story is after 2 years of doing that and sort of coming to the realization that, not eating every day was not fun for me. That I was not into that. That's when which is a whole other story, but I ended up going into technology because I had a bunch of friends and I was making $200 a week and they were making $200 an hour. And
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not like I have to change something. So when I was 21, I ended up going into technology. I became a software developer, and I ended up working on Wall Street for 7 years. And I was a Wall Street girl by day doing software development, and theater girl by night. So, I worked in a cubicle in a suit every day, and then I would take the crosstown bus over to the theater district every night and get changed and do a show. So that was my life in New York I was in New York for 10 years, but I did that for like at least seven or 8 years.
Well, I worked in the technology industry in my corporate career, and I think that there are so there's a very strong relationship between music and math, apparently, and software coding and all of that stuff. So I knew a lot of people who had gigs at night who were like musicians and, did other things, just more creative stuff, but not during the day. You're right. You do it to make the money, and then you do your thing at night.
Yeah, absolutely. So I did that for a long time, and the truth is it was amazing. And the rest of the truth is I did it at the perfect age, because, between working my, Wall Street gig during the day and theater at night, I was sleeping like 4 hours a night, maybe by the time I got home and before I had to wake up to like take the bus back down to Wall Street, I had like maybe 3 or 4 hours in my apartment. So I would like hurry up and get ready for bed and like try to sleep really fast before I had to get up the next morning. So so after doing that for 7 years, I was super burnt out, but I did it at the right time.
Oh yeah, your 20s is exactly the right time.
20s, right?
Yeah, you can do it then.
Yeah, late teens, early 20s. That is the time to sleep 3 hours a night for 7 years straight. That was the time. And it was amazing. Like I had an incredible time, honestly.
So when you were in New York that you were on Saturday Night Live, or was it after you had moved?
It was in New York, and it was a million years ago. And it was, I was in one episode, and I was in a Mango sketch. But I'm sure it lives out there somewhere.
Oh, absolutely.
It lives somewhere. But yes, that was in New York. And then I'd also done a few commercials. I obviously did tons and tons and tons of theater, which is an interesting thing for theater versus like film and television actors and now like recording artists. Is some of the best work I ever did was in theater, and it's lost forever.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
Wasn't recorded, yeah.
It wasn't necessarily recorded, and even if it was recorded, live theater isn't really meant to be recorded. So even if it was recorded, it's kind of lost. So it's an interesting thing as an actor. People are like, oh, what have you done? I'm like, well, I did this one little thing on Ally McBeal. I did this one little thing on SNL. I did this one little thing. I'm like, but I did like 10 years of incredible work in the New York theater.
Yeah.
But it's gone. It's gone forever, which is, I don't know. It's just an interesting, the temperance of existence or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what made you decide to leave New York for Tinseltown?
So a couple things, honestly, mostly film and television. So mostly I had also, so again, you were in your 20s once, right? So you have I had all these realizations. And one of the realizations I had after, again, working over 100 hours a week for 7 years straight, or at least 7 years straight, I'm like, man, even if I reach the pinnacle of New York theater, which at the time, like an equity leading role contract, unless you were a famous person on Broadway, was like $1,500 a month, or $1,500 a week, $1,500 a month, $1,500 a week. Sorry, $1,500.
Oh, it would have to be $1,500 a week. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, it was $1,500 a week. So again, this was a long time ago. So it was $1,500 a week, and I remember thinking, all right, so even if I make it, and then I'm working, and obviously, like if I was actually if I was a leading role in a Broadway show, I wouldn't be able to be doing this 80 hours a week in corporate America thing. Right? So I was like, wow, I'm gonna live in New York City, and even if I achieve like the ultimate dream of all my dreams, and I have a leading role on Broadway, like I'm making $50,000 or $60,000 a year, and it's kind of like the most I can hope for. And not that it's all about the money, it's not.
Well, but New
But
York City is not a cheap place to live.
right, but if you've ever lived in New York City, you know that it's ridiculous. I live in Los Angeles now. People are like, it's so expensive here. I'm like, no, it is not. I mean, it is, but it is nothing compared to living in New York City. So it was somewhere between, gosh, I don't want to spend the rest of my life, with $50,000 or $60,000 a year being the most money I could possibly make. Like that doesn't sound like a good idea. And I was really burnt out from working too much. I'd gone through a really, really bad breakup with the man I thought I was going to marry that thankfully I did not marry. We were not meant to be together. Lovely man, but we were not meant for each other. And, so he had broken up with me. I was super burnt out. I sort of had this realization I wanted to do more film and television. At that point, I'd done Saturday Night Live. I'd done a few commercials. I did a few independent films. And I'm like, man, I really think I'd like to work in film and television. And I had an awesome career coach who's still, she's bi-coastal. She's still around, Gwyn Gillis. She's amazing. And I kept saying, well, I really want to do more film and television. I really want to do more film and television. And she's like, why are you in New York City? I'm like, well, it's my home. Like, this is New York. Like, I'm a New York girl. And
well, they do TV in New York. Some.
More now than then, right? Mm-hmm. This was a few years ago, several years ago. So after all was said and done, I just said, well, there's nothing, I'm not loving my job. I'm super burnt out. My almost fiance broke up with me, and I'm going to LA.
Yeah, what the heck? Nothing to lose, right?
Nothing to lose. And I literally picked up, and I knew one person who lived out here. Actually, my best friend from high school lived in LA. So I knew one human who lived in Los Angeles. And it was like on a whim. I just picked up, I called a moving company, and I moved to LA.
I did that once in my life, not to LA, but I actually went on vacation and I had still been living at home. And so I called my mom and I said, could you sell my car? Because I'm going to stay.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome. Were you in your 20s?
I was, yes.
That is the best time to make crazy impulsive decisions.
Yeah. I agree. So all of this time, were you writing songs, singing songs, or was your singing sort of just tied to the performances?
So at that time, it was mostly tied to musical theater at the time. However, I sang with a couple of really random bands in New York. One of them was amazing. I sang with a techno band, actually. That was amazing. We were called, were we Lightspeed? I mean, this is a long time ago. I sang with a blues band called Steve Marshall and the Deputies. I sang with a few different really random bands, but I performed at CBGB's. We had some really fun New York City gigs. Awesome. I did a gig at CBGB's. I don't know. I did gigs all around New York City. So I did that. I was still writing songs for sure. And, but in terms of the majority of my performances at that time were all geared towards musical theater at the time. But yeah, I was writing and I was singing with really kind of random, funny bands.
Well, it sounds like you have quite a range then.
I hope so. Yes.
So you recently won the award for Best Original Song in a Short Film at the London International Film Festival. Tell me about that.
Oh my gosh, that's so amazing. So interestingly enough, I live in Los Angeles. I MC the Simi Valley Town Center tree lighting every year. It's a huge event. It's awesome. Literally 8,000 people come. And a couple of years ago in the audience was the producer of a film called The Admired. And she saw me MC. And when I MC, I sing. I MC. It's like a whole night of entertainment. So she saw me sing and she was like, oh my gosh, you're amazing. Your voice is transcendent, yada, yada. I want you to be in my film and I want you to play. There's a role. Her name is Corrine and she's the jazz singer in the club where the film is sort of where it's set. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that. So it's interesting how life presents us opportunities. And I didn't make this up, but I'm a big believer in this. Say yes and then figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like I do my best to be a yes in life. As a matter of fact, in my 20s, I used to have sticky notes all over my house that just said yes, just yes. So she said, I want you to be in this film. I'm like, oh my gosh, of course, I'd love to be in this film. And then she was having a little bit of trouble getting music together for the film. She was having a little bit of trouble getting the title track and she had needed some other music and she had no idea that I was a songwriter. And I said, well, I'm a songwriter. Let me write something for you. Let me see if you like it. So I ended up writing the title track for the film. The track is called When You're Admired. I ended up writing the title track. I gave it to her. She loved it. She loved it so much that she also hired me to write 2 additional songs for the film. And it's a song, I sing it with the lead in the film, Jacqueline Murphy, amazing, beautiful actress and producer. So with Jacqueline, we sing my song, When You're Admired, in the film The Admired, and it got submitted to a ton of film festivals. And lo and behold, I don't have it with you. I would show it. I have a certificate suitable for framing.
Oh, very nice.
But it's not yet framed. And lo and behold, I won the, best original song in a short film at the London International Film Festival. And I was like, wow, that's kind of cool. I was excited.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And you're in the film as well.
And I'm in the film. I play Corrine Sidney, jazz singer.
Awesome.
It was really fun.
And it's called Admired. And can we find it like somewhere?
Yeah, you can find it, I think, a lot of places. It's called The Admired. And
The Admired, okay.
Yeah, The Admired, and it's by Jacqueline. It's a Jacqueline Murphy film.
Okay.
So
you are still singing now.
Yes.
And you have a new single.
I do.
Choose to Forgive. That's deeply personal to you.
It is.
I heard it recently and was so moved by it. What's the story behind it?
So it's very interesting. So I grew up in an abusive household and was abused by my father, who is not only was abusive, but my dad is an alcoholic. And there was it was honestly like a very, very difficult childhood living with him. And I left home when I was 17. And I actually excommunicated my dad from my kingdom when I was 19. I said, we're done. And an interesting thing happens when you are abused as a child. And this is going to be no surprise to anyone who has ever been abused or been to therapy or knows anyone who's been abused. It does not just magically go away when you move out of the house. So even though the abuse occurred from, the age of whatever, 3 or 4 until I was 17, I realized as I got older and older that I was still operating from that place of abuse. I was still making decisions from the place of abuse. I was still dating some winners. I was still dating a lot of horrible, abusive men coming from like that place of abuse. So the song, and again, like fast forward so many years of like working through stuff and therapy and realizations and bad relationships and good relationships and working. And I actually wrote the song about 4 years ago. So it was a journey to actually get it produced and released. But about 4 years ago, again, without like too many long stories and circles, we could be here for hours. I realized for myself, and everyone has their own journey. But for myself, I realized that if I was going to let go truly of my past and my dad, that I had to find something that looked like forgiveness. And the reason I say something that looks like forgiveness is because, man, even now, after years and after writing the song and after therapy and all the things that I went through, there's actually a lyric in the song, and it says, "Can you tell me what forgiveness means?" Like, forgiveness for me, has been a tricky road. It's been a tricky road to navigate for me. So, because for me, it doesn't mean what he did was okay, right? So it doesn't mean what he did was okay.
No, right. It never does. That's
Right.
something that people often confuse. They say, I can't
Yeah.
forgive because then it's like saying that it didn't matter, or if it's okay, but that's absolutely not the case.
Absolutely not the case. And so again, years and years and years. So I finally came to a place where I deeply realized that forgiveness was for me.
Mm-hmm.
And it was for me to take all those feelings and all that past and all those voices in my head and all my knee-jerk reactions and trigger reactions to things in my life. And finally, in a weird way, actually package them up and hand them back to my father, to the universe, to wherever, but hand it back and say, this isn't me. This is my abuse. And now I'm going to hand it back and I'm going to move on with my life. So for me, the song it's deeply personal. Some people are like, how are you crazy? Like, how could you have put that out in the world? And for me, it was, of course, for myself, my own therapy, part of my own journey of forgiveness. And it is something I'm really passionate about, is ending child abuse. And I know it's a lofty thing, and I know that it may never end, but I would love to be part of the end of child abuse. So for me, I wrote the song, of course, for myself, but I also wrote it for every daughter, every son, every human who has ever been abused, really in any way. And just as a hope, as a prayer, that my song could have any tiny part in healing or hope in the world for people who have suffered abuse. And to that end, I know I've babbled for a long time. And to that end, I'm also actually donating a portion of proceeds from my song, From Choose to Forgive, to a wonderful nonprofit organization called Prevent Child Abuse America. So not only am I trying to spread awareness and healing and hope and love, and I'm also, going to give some money to a charity that I believe in, that their belief is also, they're also working on ending childhood abuse. So there you go.
That's awesome. And one of the things that you said that I think is also really important, when you said people are like, well, how could you put that out there? Well, part of coming from an abusive background is the shame that you feel, right? And you don't want people to know. And that also can hold you back. And so when you realize that, you know what, it's not me, right? It's something that happened to me. And it's not my fault, right?
Right. Right.
Then that helps you to kind of get to that place of, okay, I don't have to accept this as who I am. Like you said, it's not me. I give it back to you. It's not mine.
Right.
And that does lead to healing. So I love that you've done that, because it really does, when people hear that and see, oh, it's not this dirty little secret of mine. Like, it's happened to other people. And if they can talk about it, maybe I can bring myself to get to that place too. So that's fantastic. And that you're, helping. It would be nice to end child abuse. I don't think it's impossible, but I think we have a very, very long way to go. But, every step in the right direction helps. And if you can reduce it, then that's a victory too, right?
Yeah. Well, and of course, and we have a long way to go. We have a long way to go on a lot of these issues right now, right? Like, we're in a really timely place. And I won't get political, but in our country with rights and the Me Too movement and women's rights. And, it's interesting. I actually think as hard as a lot of this has been to go through and uncover for people, I actually think we're kind of in a little bit of an age of enlightenment here.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's no longer just the shame, it's no longer just being swept under the rug, although I'm sure it still is, right? But there's at least there's a little bit of a voice and a raising a hand and saying, right, me too, and I suffered abuse, or I had this happen to me. So I think that's really amazing. And I feel like I was going to say something else about that. Oh, yes, it would be honestly, just I don't know what's wrong with people. Children are the most innocent things in the world, and child abuse is insane to me, insane to me. And I'm part of me is why, how does child abuse even exist? We could bring a therapist on to talk about that.
Yeah, well, part of it, I think, is the cycle, right? The abuser,
yes.
The abused becomes the abuser.
Yes.
Because
yes.
they don't know any better, or they don't become enlightened. And so they just think that's the way it is. That's
right.
how you're supposed to treat people.
Right. And then it is our job, or I won't say it's my job as an enlightened human being, or as enlightened as I possibly can be, right, to stop the cycle, to stop it and say no more. And then I'm a songwriter, I'm an artist. So the thing that I can do is I can write a song about it, and I can bring awareness and, again, hopefully hope and healing in that way. So.
And also your song also conveys that it is a journey. Right? You don't just wake up one day and go, I'm just going to forgive and give it back, right?
Yes. Although I wish, right? I wish that's what it was like. But no, it's definitely a journey. I'm trying to think. So yeah, even in my song, and I'm sure we'll talk about how people can get it, but in my song, I sort of talk about a little bit about the child abuse at the beginning, and then in the bridge, in the middle of the song, there's a lyric that says, years and years go by and you don't get to share in my life.
Mm-hmm.
I've been holding on to hate. I've got to find another way. So yeah, it's a journey.
And the song is very deep. I mean, like I said, when I heard it, I was like, oh my God, because, I experienced a little bit of that in my life, and also did not have a relationship with my father after a certain point of my adulthood. And yeah, it is a journey. And like all journeys, you never really reach your destination, but you can only hope to have a better experience along the way.
Yeah, I was just going to say that it's a journey that I'm still on, right? And I hate that. I wish there was a way to be like, haha, I am done. I have achieved it. But I don't think that that's how it works. I think it is like a continuous journey. It is a moment to moment choice. Thus the title of the song, Choose to Forgive. It's a moment-to-moment choice to choose forgiveness over hate and carrying around all that crap in your body forever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, because it hurts you more than it hurts them at this point in your life.
Right, that's true. Yeah, absolutely.
So you're now focusing on your music.
I am.
And I will say you have an amazing voice.
Thank you.
And that just brings even more beauty to the song. But you perform with two, in your words, incredible groups. Make Mine Acoustic and the Wonderells.
Yeah.
So what style of music? You alluded earlier to you were kind of all across the board in New York. What style of music, and is each distinctly different?
Oh, they're so different. So now that my single was released in October, my EP comes out in November. So more songs coming your way. And I'm now starting to go out. I'm now performing as Bridget Brady with my own band and doing that as well. But I've been singing for years with my two groups, Make Mine Acoustic, which is an eclectic acoustic trio, 2 guitars, three voices, the best dang harmonies you've ever heard in your life. And we literally perform my songs. So it's actually really cool. I got to kind of workshop, and I still do. I have like 10 more songs ready to go. I get to kind of workshop my songs with Make Mine Acoustic. So we sing everything from, modern sort of like kind of soft pop, Sam Smith kind of stuff, to some country stuff like Little Big Town, Lyle Lovett. We do a whole group of just great kind of folk music, Simon and Garfunkel, James Taylor. So that group is really focused on just like beautiful harmonies, beautiful singing. And this is what a lot of my music is just really like delicious, like heartfelt, just like yummy, like music that's delicious. So, and that's what I love too. Like officially, I'm a singer-songwriter. I'm a pop singer officially. Mm-hmm. And everything, as you know, you've heard Choose to Forgive, everything I do comes from like a really like deep, not necessarily that it's like all sad and about child abuse and forgiveness, but it comes from like a really deep place. And I really like to make my music really personal, really heartfelt. And like I said, just like delicious. I like my music to be tasty. So that's what I do. So that's Make Mine Acoustic. And then the Wonderells, I've actually sung on and off with the Wonderells for years. And oh man, that is just pure fun. We are a 50s, 60s and 70s girl group. So that is Poodle Skirts and Saddle Shoes and Johnny Be Good and Johnny Angel and Rock Around the Clock. And that is just like a world of just fun. That's like a world of nostalgic fun is what that is. So I've sung them for years. Like fun. Oh yeah, so much fun. So and that actually also, that harkens back way more to my musical theater background. The Wonderells is very much, it's a show. We have dancing, we have choreography, we have dialogue. It's just nostalgic yum. And then Make Mine Acoustic is a little bit more, for me, it's like, it's a little deeper. It's a little more like, listen to these beautiful harmonies. And then, of course, my own music as well is definitely like very, 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 very soulful, very heartfelt, everything that I do.
So the songs that you write,
yes,
where do you get your inspiration? And are they all sort of somewhat autobiographical, or are some just inspired elsewhere?
So at this exact moment, all of my songs are absolutely autobiographical. And so I have a song called, on my new EP coming out, called I'd Rather Be Alone. It is an awesome song. And it's actually about, it's funny, everything ties together, right? I guess because it's my life. So after years of horrific relationships, I said, what is the common denominator here? The common denominator is me. So I am going to take a step back. I am going to not date. I'm going to figure out like why my picker is broken. Like, why am I picking these horrific men to spend my time with? So I took a step back. I took a 5-year hiatus, like from anything. No dating, no nothing. Like I was like, just me and myself and I'm going to figure this out. And after that time, I said, okay, I'm going to get back into the dating world. And I was encouraged by a friend to do online dating.
Oh.
Now, here's what's interesting. I don't poo-poo online dating, but I will tell you that I did about 1.5 years of online dating and went on 50 of the worst dates I'd ever been on in my life. And so thus the song I'd Rather Be Alone was born. So that's a song that I wrote as an homage to the 50 worst dates that I've ever had in my entire life. So,
wow.
Yeah. So,
didn't someone write a book about that, like 50 worst dates?
I think there's a great movie called 50 First.
Oh, 50 dates. First dates. Okay.
So I wasn't even like, it literally, we could call it 60 worst dates. I didn't know exactly how many it was, but it was like almost a date a week for like a year and a half.
And they were all bad, really?
Oh,
That's discouraging.
Oh, well, it was so discouraging that I gave up. And then right after, like literally right after I kind of gave up the intensive search, is when I met my current boyfriend, who's incredible and amazing. And I finally recalibrated my picker. So it was after I gave up all the craziness, right after that, I actually met my current boyfriend and we're awesome. So
Well, congratulations.
thanks. It's good.
Yeah. I know people who've had mixed results with online dating. I know some people who've met their spouses and they're happily married many, many years
Oh
later.
yeah, me
And
too.
I know people who've had the same experience as you, where it just was a complete.
Well, and it was horrible, but in 100% transparency, I met my current boyfriend. He was like the last person that I clicked, like communicate with or something in the online dating world. But I had already given up. Like I'd already like, I'm over this. I'm not doing this anymore. But I'd already paid for the month and I'm very frugal. I'm very responsible with my money. Like, well, I already paid for the rest of the month. So you know what? And I was very like, fine, good enough, whatever, fine, I don't care. And one of those people is my boyfriend. So I actually ended up meeting him online dating, but it was a really wild ride to get there. There you
Well,
go.
good for you. I hope it continues to be wonderful.
Thank you.
So we are at the point in the program now where I have to ask you, what is one book or resource that changed your life that you would recommend to people?
Ooh, yay. So there's so many. I'm a reader. I am a super reader. So there's a lot. But the one that I thought of in particular for this show that I thought was also apropos to our interview is called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron. And I actually also like really went through that book in my 20s. And not only do I highly recommend it as a book, but whether you're an artist or you're not an artist, I highly recommend actually doing. She has all these incredible exercises, morning pages, and your once a week artist date. And there's just so many incredible exercises. And Julia Cameron is a spiritual genius. And so The Artist's Way, whether you're an artist or not, I cannot more highly recommend that book.
Yeah, I agree. I do not consider myself an artist, so I was initially resistant. But many years ago, I also picked that book up, and the morning pages were quite cathartic.
Yeah, morning pages, they're amazing.
Yeah. So, Bridget, how do you personally define success? What does your authentic first class life look like?
So, man, oh man, Kate, if I would have given you such a different answer 5, 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was a time for a really long time in my life where literally I was like, I'm going to be rich and I'm going to be famous. I'm going to be rich and I'm going to be famous. And until I'm rich and until I'm famous, like I totally had a someday, one day mentality. Someday, one day, I'm going to be a millionaire and I'm going to have a Grammy and all these things are going to happen. And then I grew, right? And I want to be clear. It's actually not that I gave up. I have every intention of still winning a Grammy. I have every intention of being financially incredibly successful. It's not that I gave up those things. But what I realized is that, this could almost make me emotional. What I realized is that there really is only now. That's all we have. Someday, one day, literally doesn't exist. It doesn't exist. And so today, I define success, my first class life, as being really grateful for what I have today, really present in the sweetness and the amazingness in life, and playing at 100% and still really going after my dreams, going after my goals, being the best human I can possibly be on the planet, living my life as a light in the world, and being so grateful for all of it, for every little moment.
As I would expect from a songwriter, very beautifully articulated.
Thanks. You know what? I really, this is the truth. You told me that question in advance and I forgot to prepare it. So that was nice.
So that was completely from the heart.
Completely from the heart. I channeled it. Yay.
Awesome. Now, I know you can buy the song Choose to Forgive on Amazon because I did.
Ah,
If people want to find out more about the song, you and your work,
yeah.
look for your EP when it comes out, how can
Yes.
they do that?
There's a couple ways, but the easiest way is just to go to my website, which is bridgetbrady.com, BridgetBrady.com, bridgetbrady.com. And from there, there's actually a snippet of the music video. There are links because you can get my song Choose to Forgive now everywhere. You can get it on Amazon, iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube Music. There's an official music video, which is awesome, that's on YouTube. So all of those links live on bridgetbrady.com. And then the EP that comes out in November will also be titled Choose to Forgive. So the single is called Choose to Forgive and the EP is called Choose to Forgive. So you certainly can search that. But you can, bridgetbrady.com is a great way to go. And I also have all of my social media links on my website. So please, 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 of course, download the song and listen to it and give it 5-star reviews and thumbs up and all those things that, that artists love.
Yeah, absolutely.
And please come connect with me on social media. I'm actually the Bridget Brady across all social media platforms. So you can also connect with me on social media.
The one and only Bridget Brady. What about your singing engagements where your band will be playing? Or
Yes.
one of the bands that you sing with will be playing?
Yes. So a couple things. One, I need to be a little bit better about keeping my gigs updated on my website. But in the meantime, you can get on my gig mailing list, like where and when I'll be playing. And I promise that's all that it is. It's not spammerific. It's not like, it's literally like where I'm going to be playing or if my EP comes out. So that's also on bridgetbrady.com. You can join my mailing list and I will let you know where and when I am playing. And of course, I post all that on social media. So if you follow me on social media, I always post that on there for you too.
Perfect. So what's next for Bridget Brady?
Well, the big thing that I'm focused on right now is my EP release in November. So I literally just got the files back from from mastering. So I just have the files back and I'm about to put those through all the distribution channels. So my big EP comes out in November and I'm just really looking to, at this moment, promote the EP, play out as much as I can. And then, like probably most artists and songwriters, I have like my next 10 or 20 songs percolating I don't have my iPhone, in my body and in my iPhone, little ideas for songs. So I really want to promote this EP and then I want to get back to writing and recording my next how many ever songs.
Fantastic. Well, Bridget Brady, award-winning singer, songwriter, and actor. The new song, Choose to Forgive, is beautiful. Everyone should go download it right now. Thank you so much for sharing your story with me today, and I'll look forward to that EP coming out soon.
Thank you, Kate, and thanks for having me. You are awesome, and this was awesome, and I really appreciate it.